Hey lovely sexy gaming people, welcome to today's video. It's issue 429 of Wargames Illustrated. Straight off the bat I'm going to say there's some lovely artwork here of what I assume is a samurai on horseback here. Obviously from feudal Japan. Let's crack in. So, subscriptions, observation post, rules, supplements, figures, terrain, hobby gear and more. Oh, excuse me. So we have Partisan Press, the Senushi's Little Miniature War 1915 to 1917. The Senushi's Little War is an expansion for Steve Langan's Setting the East Ablaze rule set, but it's also a labour of love from author Robert Gigolo. His opportunity to research and present a lesser-known conflict of the Great War, the Senussi campaign, is covered in full here, and while it may be more obscure than some of the famous battles in the Western theatre, this Back of Beyond conflict offers many different wargaming possibilities. So there you go. Scale assorted. It's World War One. It's £35 for the book. It's 190-page large format full colour softback book, and it's available from cavalierbooks.com. Dice Heads Zune Tales Battle Royale starter set. Look at these. Oh, these are super cute. So feisty foxes and raging rabbits. Fantastic. Right. Battle Royale never tries to hide that it's an intentionally accessible, simple rule set. Getting the little goblins in your life to start enjoying our hobby is the goal listed in the book's very first paragraph. This is a rule set and world designed to appeal to children and be played by families. So there you go. This is like a mage rabbit there. Another rabbit with a massive warhammer. Fantastic. Wargames Atlantic World War I British Infantry. So they look good. Obviously you're going to get a lot of repeats because you're basically using a small number of torsos, putting different arms, etc. on them. So you're going to get kind of similar poses, not exactly similar. But then also Atlantic Digital makes STL files available for each of Wargame Atlantic's ranges every month. So we've got Russian Women's Battalion of Death here, Sea Battalion, and we've got some Arabs and some German stormtroopers by the look of it. Partisan Press again, Refighting History Volume 11 or Volume 2, depending on which way you want to view the double one there. So a scale assorted period, 7 Years War, is £42.50 for a 202-page large format full colour hardback book from cavalierbooks.com. So there you go. Radar release, or release radar even. So Empires at War have released this 28mm Western Crusaders Castle. That looks really cool. And I think you could probably just double that up for like French Foreign Legion in the desert, you know, Beaugest and all that. We've got some resin minis here. Sticking with Romans, Resin Warfare, myminifactory.com have a huge collection of STL files available in a Frontiers crowdfunding campaign. This one looks like a Roman catapult. Blah, 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 blah. The devices and methods have differed over the centuries, but in Roman times one option was the onager. V&V Miniatures have reproduced their existing 40mm Roma onager in 28mm below, translating the detailed model to a more versatile gaming scale. It's really nice stagecoach here. What's this? You wait years for a stagecoach to come along, and then suddenly there are two in hard plastic. After the Great Escape Games Old West version, see next issue where James paints one as a storytelling scenic piece, comes a 28mm fantasy version from Dungeons and Lasers. This looks more like a European medieval traveller's home as opposed to the kind of stagecoach you might find in the West. So that's really cool. And then myminifactory.com, Wargames Atlantic, have a multi-part 28mm scale longship. So that looks good, and looks like the hull comes in 3 parts, and then the mast and the sail and the oars are all printed as well. Fantastic. Modern times. We are only relatively modern with the first vehicle here, which comes from early war miniatures. The Birch gun is a 20mm scale and produced in resin. This was the first self-propelled gun produced for the British Army, although it never really saw service other than with the experimental mechanised force. Along with the Birch gun, it's the Burford Keegress armoured personnel carrier. So that's this one, and the Birch gun there, and then there's a Vickers medium Mark III tank. So I would say that these were more interwar years. So armour. And we had some sci-fi terrain here. Fuel depot. It comes in 28mm scale resin. Fuel distributor with 3 options: 1, 2 or 3 tanks. And then we have some swamp things here by the look of it. Attacking shamblers. So we've got a standing, young and an attacking shambler here. And then we've got some toads with the Toad King and toad bosses. Quickfire. Okay, Another String to His Bow by Paul McKay. I was lucky enough to be sent some pre-production samples of Ragged Staff Mini's beautiful Wars of the Roses figures. They are available on Etsy. This was doubly fortunate for me as I had recently embarked on building an army for this period. It is a long time since I have painted miniatures equipped with bows, and inspired by images I occasionally come across in which hobbyists have decided to string their troops' bows. That was what I decided to do on the Archer Captain. So they look really good actually, nicely painted up, but they look really good. Nice crisp detail on the chainmail. Free kit bashing. Matt Lindsay. I've always loved the allure of a free sprue, and it's one of the things that first drew me to reading Wargames Illustrated. Although the theme tends to be historical, I have often found they make great fodder for kit bashing in sci-fi and post-apocalyptic settings. I've used World War II Germans in greatcoats as a basis for my chaos mutated renegade troopers, and discovering that their 20th century arms and equipment go well with certain grimdark aesthetic. So there you go. They look fantastic actually. Whole mix of different minis there. So 0-200 hours, desert raids in the dark. So yeah, 0-200 hours is really taking off, isn't it? A friend of mine, Gavin, who runs gamingfigures.com up the north near Gisborough, Redcar, around that area. He held a event for that, I believe, recently in the last few months. But yeah, and being a former reservist myself, I can turn around and tell you that night fighting is a completely different kettle of fish to, dealing with attacking positions or making a raid during daylight. This is where you really need to know your arcs, and you really need to know, where your troops are going to be, because there may be issues with blue on blue in the dark. Looking at the scenery though, scenery all look great as well. New characters, Rommel. Okay. Alicia, Caesar's Greatest Victory, a Wargames model masterpiece. So, if memory serves, wasn't Alicia where Caesar was laying siege to a hill tribe or something, and then he received word that reinforcements were coming for the hill tribe, so he built a second set of fortifications to repel the reinforcements that were arriving, while still at the same time laying siege to the hill fort. It's one of his greatest victories. But looking at this, looking at the scenery and terrain, that looks fantastic. That'd be an interesting game to see and be a part of. And then we're into Test of Honor. Okay, Test of Honor, the Samurai Miniatures game. James takes on Test of Honor's designer Graham Davey. So we've got two forces, each of different feudal Japanese houses, I assume. Nice board though. I'm loving these little feudal Japanese homes. So this looks like it's a battle report, or at least an explanation of how the game works. A very fierce and hot dispute. The Battle of Maidstone, 1648, Part 1. The man behind Bloody Miniatures, Richard Lloyd, presents the first part of a two-part article about a little-known English Civil War battle. Having extensively researched the battle, which gets very little attention in the history books, Richard provides the compelling history and next month the wargaming angle of this battle that was a fierce and hot dispute. All the figures seen in the photos are from the expanding Bloody Miniatures English Civil War range. So this stone commemorates the Battle of Maidstone, 1st of June 1648. In this area, a parliamentary force under Lord General Fairfax defeated the royalist defenders of Maidstone under Sir Gamaliel Dudley in one of the hardest fought battles of the English Civil War. I'm going to have to read up on that, I think. But nicely painted miniatures again. And, okay, battlefield maps showing how it went. And then a slightly close up of the village. So this is obviously just the history of the encounter. (1066) and all that, with apologies to Seller and Yeatman. Okay, Jim Graham looks at how we can wargame the battles of 11th century England. Harold Godwinson, the last Anglo-Saxon king. We all know the story of Harold Godwinson. He was the last Anglo-Saxon king of England and end of a line going back to the Romans. In 1066 he won away at Chelsea, and then 3 weeks later he took one in the eye at Hastings, and William the Bastard was crowned. Thus began the Norman dynasty. So, talking about mysticism, complicated kingships, Harold's army, mastered the terrain, William's army, and so on. Because obviously he fought the battle of, was it Stamford Bridge? So they're talking about Fulford, the Forgotten Battle of 1066. Talking about deployment, forces, battlefield and deployment, and so on. So yeah, that looks like another good article actually. Interesting to find out more about the Fulford. Talking Miniature, stories from early days of Games Workshop. Here we go. Wargames Illustrated editor Dan takes a trip across town to chat with Robin Dews and John Stallard about the new book from their joint venture, Shaggy Dog Publishing, Talking Miniatures, or how the Lincoln Model Railway and Wargaming Society changed the world. So yeah, it's an insight into early GW, amongst other things. So that looks like it could be an interesting read. Maybe a few revelations, a couple of scandals, maybe. Anyone? But yeah, interview with these two guys. Tough Gut. Dom Saw guides us through the new bolt action campaign, Italy, and highlights some of the tasty Italian seasoning it will sprinkle into your games. Brilliant. So World War II. I wonder how they'll game Monte Cassino. Wojek the Bear Special Miniature. Brilliant. Oh, Audi Murphy. I don't know if he's the most decorated soldier from World War II, but he's certainly up there. Was he the youngest recipient of the Medal of Honor during World War II? So we got some Alpini. Looks like Italian mountain troops, maybe. Plastic Alpini support this book's release and come in a box of 30 figures on 6 identical frames. Central part of the frame contains identical torsos to the existing Italian frame, but the outer elements are all updated with Alpini specific options for headgear and equipment, Alpini caps and M33 helmets. A couple of 88s. Scratch building terrain for the doomed. So yeah, scratch building out of rare, I won't say rare, but you know, different objects, like they're using a toy water pistol here that can be transposed into some sort of mechanical gubbins. But yeah, I mean, keeping a bits box is quite important if you're a scratch builder. I keep a bits box for various bits and pieces. I don't do a lot of scratch building on terrain at the moment, but I should do. And I'm hoping to grab myself a 3D printer at some point, a resin one, and then maybe later on a FDM one, just so that I can obviously print out additional scenery bits and such. But these look really good. What he's done in making these, or she, I should say, Anna Planskak. They look good, and they look good on the battlefield. Right. Patron class triremes. Interesting little ships. So obviously this is Ancients, and Ocean Warfare. So information on these, rules and stat cards by the look of it. And then some close-ups of how they coloured the models, etc. Which is nice. Loving the freehand artwork on the sails that they've done. Right, communal construction. So this is the Tet attack on Saigon Embassy 1968. So this is a exclusive build for this particular game that these guys were asked to do. Colin Ferrand tells the tale of a collaborative project to build a Salute gaming board recreating the attack on the US Embassy in Saigon during the Vietnam War. So yeah, the attack on the embassy during the Tet Offensive happened. That's a really nice miniature. And that should give some really interesting gaming play on that. I don't know if all the levels are playable. It doesn't look like they are. It looks like you've obviously got ground floor and then obviously the roof. Historicon, America expansion of Civil War 1789 to 1897. Dave Taylor reports on Historicon 2023, which ran from 9th to 23rd of July in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. So there you go. This is a container ship here. I wonder if this is their gaming against pirates, Somali pirates or something. So, Battle of Las Guasimas, or Guasimas. Revolt in Austria. Khartoum, the war game. And Hello Second Army, the Battle of Bloody Gulch. So GMs Michael Gesser and Adam Gesser and Don Hogue ran a great 60mm game using the Battleground World War II rule set as Easy Company of the 101st Airborne pushed through Carentan on 13th June 1944. They ran into the 17th SS Panzer Grenadiers with Stug G support. Cool. And looks like we're getting the last few pages of adverts. And there you go. That was it. Right, hope you enjoyed that. And I will see you in the next video. All right, take care. Bye-bye.